Hello, Malcolm here, and welcome to Tuesday Teaching Tips, episode 187. Now we're coming towards the end of the year here, as you can see by my wearing my Christmas jumper if you're watching the video. And so this week we're going to talk about the inspirational power in the Word for preaching. And the next 2 weeks we're going to be looking at how to review our preaching and teaching year and then how to look forward to the year ahead, which in this case is 2020. But first of all, the power of preaching is in the Word. The power of preaching is in the Word. As much as we talk about the tips, about the ways to present, the ways to prepare, and those are important, the power of preaching is in the Word. So today I don't have so much an instructional video, more, I hope, an inspirational one to help us to trust in the power of God's Word when we preach and teach. Just last night I was reading a booklet by Nicky Gumbel. And a paragraph in it moved my spirit. I was mulling it over last night, and it was still on my mind this morning. And so I thought I'd share with you what he wrote. And so it's a quote about his own life, and I'll read you that quote from the booklet here. So it says this: about 16 years ago, I was on holiday with my family in Central Asia, part of the USSR as it then was. At that time, Bibles were strictly illegal there, but I took some Christian literature, including some Russian Bibles. While I was there, I went to churches and looked for people who seemed from their faces to be genuine Christians. At that time, the meetings were usually infiltrated by the KGB. On one occasion, I followed a man who was probably in his 60s down the street after a service. I went up to him and tapped him on the shoulder. There was nobody about. I took out one of my Bibles and then handed it to him. For a moment, he had an expression of almost disbelief. Then he took from his pocket a New Testament, which was probably 100 years old. The pages were so threadbare, they were virtually transparent. When he realized that he had received a whole Bible, he was elated. He didn't speak any English, and I didn't speak any Russian. We hugged each other, and he started to run down the street jumping for joy because he knew that the Bible was the most precious thing in the world. Can you imagine that 60-year-old Russian jumping up and down the street, having received that Bible, the most precious thing in the world? You know, next time you get up to preach or teach, next time I do that, when we hold that Bible in our hands, we do well to remember that it is the most precious thing in the world. And it's about the power in God's Word. It's not about our eloquence. It's not about our professionalism. It's not about how slick we are. It's not about how good our exegesis is, valuable as many things like that can be. It's about this book. It's about the most precious thing in the world. I hope you've enjoyed having the privilege this year of preaching and teaching about this most precious thing in the world. And I hope you're looking forward to next year to doing the same if God wills. But let's remember that when we get up to preach and teach, it may well be that as we bring the most precious thing in the world to the people who are listening, that they may discover that it's the kind of thing that can make them jump up and down for joy, whether they're 6, 16 or 60. That's the power that's in God's Word. It's awesome. It's amazing. Let's never forget this. Let's never forget how lucky we are. It's the reason you and I preach and teach. It's because we believe it's the most precious thing in the world. And we believe it has the power to transform people's lives now and, of course, into eternity. Well, I want to leave it there, just to leave you to think about that. And what I'd like to ask you is what helps you to remember this, so that it doesn't become just something you do. You're not just getting up to preach the Word again, teach the Word again. But what helps you to remember that this is so, so, so precious? I'd like to know what you think. So please leave a comment anywhere you hear or see this recording. Leave it publicly so that we can see it and learn from each other, because we learn best when we're learning in community. If you know anybody who might benefit, please give them the link. And if you could, leave me a review. If you're listening to the podcast, leave a review. Leave me a Christmas present. If you can't give me a Christmas jumper, give me a Christmas podcast review if you could. That'd be great. And if you haven't already done so on YouTube, then hit the notification button, subscribe button, And I look forward to seeing you again next week. And we'll talk a bit about how to review the preaching and teaching year. But until then, I hope you have a wonderful week and a terrific Tuesday. Take care and God bless.